Bom dia.
Bom dia. I love that we started with Brazilian music, and this has nothing to do with Brazilian music at all.
Ain't that
But
Miami?
That's some Miami shit. You're right. You're right. So you want to do like a quick introduction on who you are and
My name is Akia Dorsonville. I also go by DJ Pressure Point. I am pronouns he, she, they, that bitch, I love you. It girl, it boy, material gal them. And yeah, I am a cultural worker. I am a tastemaker. I am a DJ. I am an artist. I am someone striving to be a better version of myself.
And the founder of Masisi Radio.
And the founder of Masisi Radio in Masisi.
My name is Juancy. I'm primarily a filmmaker and artist based here in Miami. And I don't know, I think I'm the producer of Masisi Radio.
Literally.
That's what it feels like.
And technical director.
And sure, let's take both.
Literally, you kind of do both.
So today we're getting into what we've been talking about a lot in these like really weird ways. And the more that I've been thinking about it, the more it's coming up really naturally with a lot of people.
Yeah.
The theme of today is post-consumption. And I have some notes, so I'm going to kind of like go through kind of like some of the history of what this term means. Like it is an actual term. Like I kind of just thought it. I was like, oh, post-consumption, that's what it is. And then I was like, oh no, this is an actual thing. So post-consumption is actually an ideology that basically separates our sense of well-being and our sense of like worth from material success. So that's to say, in capitalism, the way that we're supposed to function is like, if you have more things, you are happier, right? That is obviously not true.
Exactly.
And this ideology of post-consumption kind of frames it as like finding what is defining what is enough for you. What is happiness for you? Is it things? Why is it things? Or is it like your relationships and like your family and whatever? So the ideology of post-consumption kind of comes from that. That's a very small way to kind of put it. I'm sure there's a bunch more about it. But we're gonna dive into the idea of post-consumption in really abstract ways, thinking about our relationship to the way that we move through the world, and particularly the way that the world moves through us.
Yeah.
Kind of like acknowledging the way that we kind of have a tendency to become passive consumers. Not only just like thinking on the internet and shit, but just like sometimes I'd be on autopilot.
Yeah.
Sometimes I'd just be walking through the world and I'm like, what the fuck is going on?
But that's the American way. It's an indoctrination.
Exactly.
If you're gonna be here, you're gonna spend money here.
Exactly. And then towards the end of our conversation, we're gonna kind of talk about the ways that we're combating that or thinking about how we can combat that passive consumption. And I kind of wanted to just start it at this, like where the kind of inspiration for this came from, which was coming out of Art Week last week. I've been going to Art Week for a couple of years now. I've had the privilege of participating with different art nonprofits in Miami, so I always get like a free NADA pass or a Basel pass or whatever. And because it's free, I'm like, all right, fuck it, like I'm gonna go. Like that sounds great. And I was like, the first couple of days, I was like going to the fairs and going to some shows, and it was like, I'm really trying. I don't want to generalize, but I was really like by the fourth day. Monica was like, oh, do you want to go to Basel today? And I was like, yeah. And then I thought about it for 5 minutes and I was like, no, I actually really don't want to go to Basel today. Like, I feel so exhausted and so
overly stimulated.
But actually, you know what? I felt bored. Like, I really felt like I thought about Art Basel and I was like, the moment I get there, my feet are going to hurt.
See?
And I'm just tired. I'm tired and I'm not inspired.
Yeah.
Tired, not inspired. And that's not what I want. Like, I feel like
that's anti-Basel.
I mean, in a way it's not, because like Basel, obviously, to be fair, Art Week is the week of selling art. Like that's when all these gallerists come together to like sell shit.
Yeah.
So the idea is that, they're going to put out the work that's the most sellable, so like I walked through NADA and I feel like 80 to 90% of NADA was paintings, and I'm like, fuck, that sucks. NADA is a New Art Dealers Alliance. It's a fair, happens in downtown. and it's like all the young cool
Yeah,
galleries in my
yeah.
experience. But like this year, I was like, man, like there's really not a lot of great things. There was, I will say, Alberto Checa. He had a booth there that I thought was fantastic, like sculpture works with like these beautiful base pieces that I thought were
Yeah.
awesome. But I was just like, man, like thinking about going to Basel, I was like, I'm feeling so uninspired. Like I feel like I should be able to go out and consume hundreds of artworks and like be like, wow, like I'm so excited to go home and like keep thinking about like how I can make art, like video, whatever it is.
But it makes it very uninspiring when you have to use a fucking water taxi just to
I really wanted to
exist.
go on that water taxi.
I did too, but after I found out it was 2 hours.
To wait for the water taxi?
Yes.
Goddamn.
And then there and back from mainland to the beach.
Oh
It's
my
not
God.
like you have to invest time into really navigating the city when it's kind of Art Basel all year round here.
Yeah, 100%.
So
it can be, yeah.
It can be.
100%
It can be. There's enough artists and enough people making work consistently.
Yeah.
But I think that's my over exhaustion as well. I am coming, I guess, from it from a different angle because there's so many different Basels happening at the same time.
Exactly.
It's not even about the art anymore. It's now.
Oh, it's parties.
It's parties.
It's just
all
parties.
parties.
It's just party. Even at the fair is a party. You
Exactly.
like walk 2 blocks, 2 steps, and like somebody chatting you up, and it's like just so like socializing. Like, oh fucking, I was so
Which
tired.
also kind of goes into the fact that a lot of nightlife is meant to produce that kind of overconsumption because they are there to sell drinks. People are selling
100%.
paintings, other people are selling drinks. So
Yeah.
exactly, which creates for
didn't
the
think about
consumer. Which for the consumer is what I guess if you're a seller, you want somebody to like unconsciously
Right.
make a purchase,
Right.
or you want someone to just be passive to the experience that they're having currently because
Exactly.
they're distracted by noise.
Right. It's not about going to a club for a good DJ or for whatever. It's like people want to get fucked up, and these clubs want you to get fucked up, and they want you to spend a bunch of money on drinks.
And someone's life work on the wall now is reduced to just background and
Background
a
noise.
set.
Yeah.
It's a set now to someone else's show. When it's your show, actually,
Right.
you paid money
Yeah.
to be at someone else's exhibition show, and yeah, it's disheartening. I've been going to Basel. Basel actually made me move to Miami.
Whoa.
Yeah, when I went to Basel right after I graduated high school.
In like
2013.
2013.
2013. That
Yeah.
was my first. So that's my first Basel, and of course I did come down from music Basel. I got to see fucking Travis Scott, Chance the Rapper, Subtract. This is all of their first records. So I saw Acid Rap live, and that was a big record for me then.
Wow.
And yeah, it was just there was something fresh and new about being in Miami, experiencing this thing I've never heard of called Basel. I didn't even know people had careers as artists, let alone, and to go to a gallery for the first time in a real way, and to like, I know what that feeling was, and I don't think folks are having that currently anymore. And if they are, it's overproduced, and you're not feeling the soul of what this city was.
Yeah, I think that kind of goes into this idea, like we were talking about earlier, is like really, I think we really need to dramatically shift the way that we experience art. And
Completely.
I mean, whether it's, painting or sculpture or film too,
Yeah.
or music, like we did the screening for Club Cinema here, and I was like, damn, like I wish people were yelling during the film, during the movies. Like I want to hear people's reactions in real time,
Disrupt.
because it feels like movies are not meant to just, how am I supposed to just sit there the whole damn time and something's happening and I'm engaged and I want to be
Can't
like,
react.
yeah. And especially for us, because like we're showing our friends.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like
You want to hear a laugh. You want to
I want to hear a laugh. I want to see like when somebody comes on the screen, you're yelling their name. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like
You
that's-
actually know this person on
yes,
the screen.
this is your friend. But it's like we've like formalized like
Yeah.
everything. We formalized it's like going to galleries. We formalized being at screenings, whatever, music shows.
Yeah. Even now, that bleeds into intimate spaces where you are trying to, like we just said with Masisi, with Club Cinema, that like
Right.
we wanted to foster an environment that it's anti that, but folks have now ingrained that in their
Yeah,
bodies.
it's 100% internalized.
It's internalized. So now, like, a space that's supposed to be liberatory
You're right.
has a little bit of chains on them a bit.
100%, and we don't recognize them. But we're gonna talk more about that later. But I also wanted to mention towards the end of our conversation, I'm gonna play some. Hopefully, if we have time, I'll play some tracks of like some of my favorite Miami musicians. Since like I was growing up, my first shows were at Churchill's when I was 16. And like kind of going back to musicians from that time that like really inspired me to like today, and even looking back towards Miami Soul, some Betty Wright, Little Beaver, stuff like that. But before we get there, I kind of wanted to zoom out and make some really like obvious claims about like what post-consumption is, and we kind of talked about it already. Like this, we live in a world where we are consuming like information, we're consuming content, we're consuming gossip, like so much bullshit. We're consuming so much white noise, and it's like my brain is like at capacity. Like I really feel like the CPU in here is like running like
my solar plex is filled.
It's filled, and all I want to do is like disappear. Like I really, it's really challenging because I have this really deep desire to be in community, but like my social anxiety is like never before. Yeah. And my desire to just like have silence and space, I've never felt like I'm a city boy. Yeah. My parents are city people. Like I'm come from Havana. I come from the city. And like for this desire to be in a fucking forest, like that's so weird. I mean, it's not weird, but like
it's still foreign to the life that you have. It's foreign to the life I've been,
because I don't even know what a forest. Like I experienced a forest for the first time last year, and I was like, damn, this is tight. Yeah, I could live out here. It's beautiful, but I don't want to be away from my friends. Yeah, no, it's an isolating place. It can be isolating, like.
But also, these cityscapes are now becoming isolating too. So
100%.
I can see why it's more enticing. Like, nobody's trying to sell you shit in the forest. You're just existing.
I'm just existing. Yeah, and in terms of kind of going back to this, like, this post-consumption is kind of also like thinking about an aperitif, like the thing that you drink to like digest. So like after we have consumed, like how are we processing and how are we unpacking the things that we're taking in, and I think like especially. Thinking about just like the internet in the last year obviously has been fucking insane. Yeah. But like, how do you go from, looking at your friend's DJ set on Instagram and you scroll down, it's like dead children in Gaza, and then you go down again and it's a meme, and then you go down again and it's like somebody's getting married. It's like we're moving through this information so fast, and we're moving through this information with such like such like no intention whatsoever. At all. And like, how are we processing any, like actually, like I don't even know what the word processing means, honestly.
We're not processing. What I do mean by know of that word, I don't think that we're actually doing that. It feels fully like we are in trenches of an addiction, that these are folks that are just over consuming. And by folks, I'm part of that too. Like the first thing I do in the morning is go on fucking Instagram and check.
Literally, you roll and then get your phone and look?
Yes, and I have to intentionally stop myself to at least go to YouTube. It's like
what do you look for on YouTube?
I see the news. The news. I catch up with the news.
So you wake up and you look for the news.
I do.
That's crazy too.
But also, I like politics.
This is what most of us do.
Yeah.
I think a lot of us are kind of functioning on that level.
Yeah, and it may be like a depressing cycle. I do think that like I've found a way to desensitize, and I even found a way, like the world I'm living in, especially on the media side of things, I'm desensitized to seeing bad fucking news, and it does not ruin my morning. But
100%.
I don't know what those lasting impact is. It's
100%.
just what's happening currently.
Yeah. Yeah, it's really fucking depressing. So I feel like, this is our processing, like the processing is just like being fucking confused.
Yeah.
I'm just like, I'm really confused. I don't know how to feel because it's like 10 different feelings at the same time. And we're like, we're processing right now in real time.
Yeah, but I think this is what it looks like. We get to talk shit about it. Yeah. But also, like, the information that we are processing at a rapid rate is really designed for that, for us to not actually be present in our bodies, to know. It's not like the information that we're getting fed has a spiritual, like, connotation to it, or maybe an emotive motive angle to it. It's just really, here you go. these motherfuckers died today. This person is overthrowing the government. Da 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 da.
Here's a meme.
Here's a meme.
This guy shot some CEO.
Go to work though on time.
Get to work on time. Yeah, it's really wild. And somebody in the chat said divest from Instagram, Twitter, and Threads.
And that's not even enough, babe, because it has seeped into our everyday lives where I can't have a casual conversation with friends without bringing that up. Because then people feel out the loop.
Exactly.
You're either playing catch up to the information or you're the one that's giving out the information.
Right. So I mean, again, we're gonna come to the solutions.
Yes.
Because I really feel like there are solutions, and I think that on top of divesting, it's really about reinvesting. Like, where do you put your time?
Okay.
Like instead of waking up in the morning and going to the phone to look on YouTube, call your friend in the morning.
Yes.
Like what if you woke up out of bed and you were like, hey, I miss you. How are you doing today? To your homie. That's a reinvestment. Or
that's funny because I remember a time in life where I personally used to do that.
That's so beautiful.
And that feels so foreign.
Yeah.
And I do feel kind of detached from a lot of my close relationships right now. So,
it'd be like that.
Symptoms. These are all symptoms.
They're all symptoms. And my friend Robert has this really beautiful way, he'll just call people out of the blue, people that he hasn't seen since kindergarten, and be like, hey, it's me, Robert, your friend from kindergarten. And instead of, I'm not to say he doesn't go on Instagram or whatever, but it's this desire and this willingness to keep tapping back into friends. And he's shameless, he's fucking, and maybe he should have some shame somewhere.
No, that's why we love him. That's why we
100%. And I'm that is such an aspirational thing for me to be able to be there's this I'm thinking about you right now, and instead of being I think about you, I'm gonna filter that thought out. It's let me check in.
I'm still stuck in kindergarten.
Literally.
I'm trying to divorce myself from high school.
Exactly. So I think it's a good time to move into part 2 of the conversation.
Okay, let's go.
I got notes, y'all. Part 2 is titled Consumption and Representation. So in my kind of research and thinking about what post-consumerism, what post-consumption is, I got back into this philosopher that I had read at some moment in my life, I'm sure, Guy Debord, who wrote this book called Society of the Spectacle, which I think is a really beautiful title. And I think this is a old-ass book. Does anybody, it's like a 50s, 40s, I don't know, it's old.
Okay.
Old as shit. And to think of the way that the spectacle has transformed from that time to today in terms of sure, the spectacle
was he referring to media then?
Yeah, he was referring to media then, specifically advertisements and media film and stuff like that, which everything is propaganda, but whatever. Okay, I'll just read what I have here. But Guy Debord in Society of the Spectacle describes the spectacle as a social relationship mediated by images. It's not just about media or advertisements, but a system where life itself is reduced to representations. So it's he kind of talks about the sign and symbol is his big thing. And so it's at what point do these images and these representations start to kind of totally lose its value, right? Like a dollar is completely, there's no such thing as value for $1, but it's we impose these things there too. And I kind of was framing it in this idea of representation in terms of the kind of work that we're doing and what it means to consume so much, I guess I'll just call it bullshit.
Yeah.
By so many black, brown, queer, whatever people who I feel are just perpetuating whiteness. If that makes sense. Perpetuating these really toxic ideals and how they become tokenized. They've been utilized, and they're using the system too. It's not to shade anybody for really doing this, because you got to.
It's survival at this point.
It's survival. It's survival, and it's I'm not going to shame survival, but again, in terms of thinking about divestment, thinking about reinvestment.
Yeah.
What does it mean to not accept something, or to accept something and then take that money and reinvest it? So it's how do we really start thinking about these images and these ideals of representation and start shifting them to actual value and actual power?
So I think for me, like, I think that's kind of like the antithesis of what we're trying to do with the radio.
Exactly.
Because so much of what Masisi, well, I'll use Masisi as an example. It can easily just be a logo and just some shit that you see on your phone.
Yeah.
And that you might see some cool videos of people enjoying and like spending their time but like you don't get a real sense of what conversations people are actually having in the
100%.
fullness
100%.
of these are actual lived bodies,
Human
bodies
Yeah.
that are making an investment into their own community. And people have jobs, people are getting fired, people are at homeless houses, but they still find a way to show up and support. And I feel like we're losing that nuance of within the programming that we have in our media.
Yeah.
That these are real, these are not AIs, it's not
You
ChatGPT
remember,
information.
you remember black bodies, this term?
No.
Like black bodies was a term that was being used.
During like BLM era, yeah.
And it was like, oh, we want to see more black bodies. I want to see more black bodies. I'm like, you want to see you just want to see a body, like okay.
Mannequins,
right? And I kept thinking about that. When
this was mannequin challenge
like,
era too.
Damn, that part. And I was like, no, these are like black people. Like these are black human beings.
Yeah.
And it's like, the Masisi Radio was really, I feel like, coming out of like this desire to not just see only a DJ set, you know, only somebody playing music. It's like, yes, you're like really good at what you do, and like this is such a beautiful mix, and that's great. But it's like, who are you?
And also, are you in the proper container for that to actually be digested and processed? Because at this point we end up just becoming logos and
Just symbols.
advertisement for things when it's just like no, beyond this, like yes, this branding may have a feeling, but what are you particularly bringing to the situation?
Exactly.
And that's what we're not stressing enough within the media that we're consuming.
Yeah, and in terms of like the popular media that we're consuming today, it's like it's just so, like we were talking about earlier, like it's so obsessive and so compulsive. And I think it's like really interesting in like black and brown and queer communities, like the kind of, I mean, I guess in every community, but I think in particular, like the relationship to fashion, the relationship to like icons.
Yes.
Like I think a lot about like leftist spaces that are like iconicizing people or like revolutionary figures.
Yeah.
And how at the same time you could like, you know, put up, you know, Che Guevara and like Rihanna and Beyonce. You know what I mean?
Or
it's
put
like,
them all in Target.
or put them all in Target on a T-shirt. You know what I mean? It's like it's so interesting how like we keep kind of like creating these literal symbols and these literal images of these people, not remembering that like these are human beings.
I think also it's the whole idea too of living forever. Like people are yearning and are constantly at a crux of their own mortality. And especially if we're seeing our mortality every fucking day on the internet, like why not be attached to something that you think is going to be, or that you have now been conditioned to believe will outlive you, opposed to this dies when you die. These logos and brands and stuff are only as powerful as you breathe life into them. So why not do that for yourself? Why not do that for the relationships don't reinvest into your relationships in your actual life, and then that will kind of really bring life back to you.
I mean, I grew up in a house where like we were very like anti-tradition, very anti-icons. I wasn't religious. Like my parents relatively not, wouldn't call them revolutionaries. You know, Cuban, and
some roots,
you know, and I never really understood people's relationship to celebrities, people's relationship, like why would I walk down the street and see somebody famous and like be super excited? Like I can't tell you how many times I walked next to like Tyler the Creator or
them though.
I mean fuck them, but you know
Beyonce, yes,
no, but like, you know what I mean? I mean should I care about, like, should I really care about you?
Yes.
I should?
I think so. I think so only because they are, just like I was somebody to care about the work that I'm doing or the work that you're doing. Like, I think that we do yearn for external validation from the people that we create work for.
But they have to be people that I respect. It has to be work that I respect.
True.
You know what I mean? And it's like, it's not to say that I can't vibe to Beyonce or whatever and I fuck with Beyonce's music, but it's like, again, who is Beyonce?
Yeah.
She is a billionaire.
Yeah.
You know, I'm not gonna talk shit about Beyonce. Like, I'm not.
I am a stan.
Be a stan, but it's like, why do we stand? Like, I wish we stand our friends more than we stand Beyonce.
That's true.
You know what I mean?
People do go harder for Rihanna than they do for their fucking friend's business.
Like, what's up with that?
You
Like,
gonna buy
like
Fenty all day, but won't fucking
let's
pay
not-
to
let's
go
not
to the
talk-
club.
Let's not talk about the scam that is Fenty. Okay, because we for the girls that know,
Don't wear no panties. How about that?
you know, and I really feel like I've really struggled with that, and I came to Miami. I was raised in Miami, right? I went to the Bay Area for 4 years to go to school, and then I came back in 2018. And those 4 years in the Bay Area, like, it really taught me a lot about. They call it DIY, and recently I heard, like, literally this weekend, I heard this term. What is it? WDIT, like, we do it together.
Okay.
Which I think was really funny. Like, this, like DIY, do it yourself, right? It's like, no, these are things actually we do together as a community. But it's like, you know, that DIY culture of the Bay Area of, like, so many alternative spaces, so many people, like, setting up galleries in their house, doing shows on the roofs of what, like, they found the smallest, tiniest little nooks and crannies to, like, make space for their friends. You know what I mean? For each other, for their own community. And I came back to Miami, and I was so excited to, like, bring that with me in some capacity.
Yeah.
And out there, I was also, like, doing shows, and I was, you know, helping bring people together. And I came back and I was like, wow, I can't wait to, like, do this. And then I was kind of, like, confronted with that shock that is, like, the institutional and what's the other word for it? Like, institutional and, like, validation culture that is Miami. You know, it's like, especially in the art world, I think in particular, you don't get a gallery show in Miami until you get a gallery show somewhere else. Yeah. You know, they see you in New York, and I'm sure you have this experience too as a DJ.
Completely.
You know, Miami still, I think you would probably say, doesn't 100% respect you the way that you should.
It needs to. It doesn't reflect in my pockets.
100%. 100%. And it's like, we keep seeing that, like I feel like Miami in particular is a space that tends to, generally speaking, I don't want to say everybody, generally speaking, really validates those that are validated in other places that are considered more valuable culturally, like New York or Berlin or whatever the fuck it is, you know? They see you go over there, and then you come back, and now it's like, oh my God, it's this person.
But you know what I think it is? It's also maybe a little bit of, one, Miami hates communism and socialism.
Facts.
So that's the main
Well, the government
thing.
does.
The government does. Well, and some of the people,
some of the people
do.
Yeah.
Well, most
a lot
of the people.
Most
of the people. And also, it's I feel like we still, because we're still so close to the Caribbean, we experience our own version of brain drain in a particular kind of way that, a lot of folks, they either end up leaving Miami or leaving Florida, and then people are, like, quick to pull your Florida card away from you, too, because, bitch, you ain't been here.
Yeah.
Just like when you live on the island.
You was made in day, but you're not going to die in 305.
You're not going to die in the 305. And part of me, I honors that, because there's a lot of people who have actually died in the 305 that allow me to be the artist that I can be.
That's right. And they're not oftentimes well recognized or respected within our own community.
At all, because people do leave and take exactly what the fuck they learned here, and they bring it to other communities.
And it's tokenized.
Or they get a lot of fucking money and they don't bring it back.
They don't bring it back.
So we were talking about, at least with the Miami Soul records and stuff.
Yeah.
Literally.
Miami Soul music, amazing.
Backbone to disco. So many disco tracks where our Miami Soul artists singing on them. And
Casey and the Sunshine Band was recording in Hialeah.
Hello. Bobby Caldwell. Bitches will play the fuck out of his music.
Yeah.
Made that shit in Hialeah.
Yeah.
Like, it's just, there's too much that we've offered up to the cultural landscape that, we're a forgotten city. We're a forgotten city in that way. And it's overconsumption. It's easy to forget about us if we're getting muddled. Our information and stuff that we're putting out is on the bottom of priority.
Yeah, it's on the bottom of priority, and it's on the bottom of its value.
Yes.
Like I really hope, and I think it's happening little by little. It's like Miami is seeing some more alternative spaces. It is seeing some more, like, groups and collectives of people coming together to, like, make their own space for people.
Yeah.
I really hope that like we're part of and all of us here are part of that culture that is supporting that development.
Yeah.
against the crazy fucking development of everything else in the city that is like literally like trying to fucking murder us.
Yeah.
And it's I really hope that people will people will start being more fearless.
Yeah.
You know, I think there's also like a perfectionist thing that's like maybe like an immigrant experience.
Yeah.
You
it's
know,
glamour.
Like, it's glamour, but I also attribute it to like being a child of immigrants or being an immigrant yourself. It's like you have to have this like perfect thing. You know, it's like if I'm gonna go into being a DJ, I have to be the best fucking DJ in the world. I gotta travel the whole fucking world, and I gotta make it big. You know.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, well, like, it's okay also if, like, you just do what you can right now and you help the people horizontally in your network. Mm-hmm. And then, like, you know, maybe one day you'll meet some famous person at a party and they'll help you or whatever. But it's like that horizontality of network. People say, I hate the word networking. That's the grossest word to me. It's like, oh, yeah, like, I'm going to, like, this event, like, in a network, and I meet people, da-da-da.
It's so
distracted. Like, that's your community.
Yeah.
That's your community.
You're not networking, babe.
You're not networking. You're making friends.
Yes.
You know, you're making friends, and those friends are going to help you, and you're going to fucking help them.
Well, if you are stepping to communities, I think that's also, that could contribute to the last conversation we were having. If you're actually going in with the intention to actually build community, then you will get you'll get your return in that. But if you're going in there to just solely extract and have transactional relationships, you will get just that. And I see that exactly with how people are relating to Miami. If you want to extract, make money, go do all the things, that is so available to you. Yeah. But you are literally going to find out there is nothing at the end of that tunnel. None of those people give a fuck about you. Yeah. You could die tomorrow and you will be replaced with a different avatar. Because you're just a logo.
Exactly.
You're just a logo to these people, opposed to, you can be an icon in your own fucking community. Exactly. And that matters a lot more because these people can actually have direct stories of how you impacted their life.
Exactly. And that leads perfectly into part 3 of our conversation, which is the solution. What do we do now? Localize consumption.
Localize the consumption.
Localize consumption. The shit that we're like, yes, I guess we gotta know what's going on in the world, but like
know what's going on in your community.
Know what's going on in your community. No,
the good, bad, and the ugly.
Who knows the judges in this fucking city, whatever it's called?
I only know the state attorney.
You know what I'm saying? Like that's how it be, and it's like why do we know more about federal judges and the president, which is not to say they're not important.
It doesn't trickle down in the way that you think.
It doesn't always trickle down the same way, and like the shit that's happening down this street is more important than. Sometimes.
The fucked up roads that you drive on every day and complain about that fucks up your car every fucking day.
Yeah.
You could actually change that.
Yeah. But it's like there's a real vested interest in governments and systems for you to not know about that shit, for you to not care about your city council members, for you to not care about your commissioners, for you not know who the judges are.
Yeah.
So that like you just mark a fucking box or don't mark a box and they just keep doing what they're doing.
So
and actually just thieving from the city, which is what most
people are doing.
Happens.
Yeah. But so this year was my first time actually, and shout out to Pam, who I see in the chat.
Hey, Pam.
I love you, Pam. But yeah, this year was my first year actually going to the city budget hearing, and that was so eye-opening to me that like literally for these 2 days, these people are all coming together, all the commissioners, the mayor, everybody that is dealing with the money that will actually trickle down to us. They only give you 2 days to advocate for where that money goes. And to actually see, different communities pull up, artists. I think it was a Guitars Not Guns. That's like a organization that's focused on gun violence, but through arts. And folks over at Dream Defenders, the Healing Justice Center, like a lot of people were able to show up and try to advocate for their cause. But that's still such a minute need compared to all of the money that is actually not going to be spent touching the people who are the most affected. I would love to see homeless people showing up to the city's budget hearing and saying, yo, I need money for a house. I need money so we can collectivize and actually get resources. More queer people talking directly to the people that whether you voted or not, in that office, not actually taking care of you. Yeah. So there's a way to really localize and like get in the know of what's going on. Like you mentioned, there is intentional roadblocks there to make the language hard because now you got to learn how to write a resolution. Now you got to learn how to draft or know the difference between an ordinance and all of this language that probably should have been taught in high school, but it didn't. But oh fucking well.
Or should just be more accessible to like a general public.
Exactly.
Like, why does that have to be that way? I don't know.
And it is. I learned a lot by going that it is. They do put it on the
website.
On the websites. It's on the local television. A lot of people. I was very surprised at the amount of people that actually showed up. There was a woman that was advocating for. She had no money. She was 7 months pregnant. She had nowhere to go. She was completely out. So she took that opportunity to stand in front of all those people and say, I need help. I've gone to all the services that this city offers me and no one answered me. So now I'm coming to you directly. Can y'all help me? Because my baby is about to be born and I don't have a place to fucking live. So, it's happening. Right. It's theirs. Just like with the overconsumption, those stories don't actually get brought up to the bubble that actually remind people, no, I actually do have a fucking voice in how this city is being shaped and how I can actually wield it to my favor and the people I give a fuck favor.
Exactly. Yeah, that's so beautiful. And I think, like on a smaller level, that's what we've been talking about, like Masisi Radio is trying to do, is to like really make it so that this is not a space for the rich and famous to come and like, I mean, not that they would maybe want to.
Y'all don't need, they will. And y'all will have to wait like the rest of the bitches at the Rocky place.
Exactly. But it's like that's really like we've talked so much about how like our goal really is not to attract somebody famous. Our goal is not to attract somebody with thousands of followers. Like the goal is really to make a platform and a space for people who fucking live here and people who are invested
and who need it.
And who need it.
You don't need a Masisi Radio. We need a Masisi Radio. Y'all will never do shit for us. Y'all don't care about the work that we're putting out. Y'all don't care about the stories that we give a fuck about. So if you don't, then I will.
Exactly right. Exactly right. And I think like I was talking with my friend Gio the other day and like thinking about how like so much of the radio is DJs and people who are playing music and like thinking about kind of like that intersection of how DJs are not really considered people to have like thoughts or ideas, or the DJ space or the party space is not a space of intellect.
You're a clown.
Yeah.
You're literally like a party clown.
Yeah, but Masisi Radio is like a place where you can have Keith B an hour ago and now we're having a dialogue about the government, local governments or whatever.
Yeah. And a music release for June and Rio.
For local, local artists.
Come on, local artists in my community putting hot shit out.
And I really think I really hope it's something that people, I think we're learning that it's something that people appreciate because like we really do need to have this dialogue. Like we really do need to talk to each other in spaces that are not just like smoking weed or having a drink or outside of a bar or after paying $20 for some white man's little bit of rum and some Sprite. And it's like we really do need to be like having more intentional. I think this is what happens, right? When you not only divest, when you reinvest your time into calling somebody, into having somebody come over for dinner, into inviting somebody to the park, your friends to the park. Like when we're doing that more and more and more, not to say it's not happening, but the more that we do it, the more that we are investing in our community and investing in each other and like really creating space to come to solutions of the problems that we have. Because we all have the same fucking problem.
Literally.
Everybody here is dealing with shitty housing issues. Everybody here is dealing with wage theft and like fucking not being able to make good money in the city. Everybody's dealing with the ceiling of your artistry.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like, so if we're all having that problem and we're not talking to each other, and I say that we're not talking to each other, but to say that we're not talking, we could be talking more.
We could be talking more and organizing.
And exactly. And instead of, talking about what happened on TikTok or what you saw on TikTok that day, we could say like, shit, like, there's some real shit going on too. And it's affecting us. And like, what do we do?
Yeah.
As friends, like, how can I help you? Can we buy a house together? Can we get a space together?
Yeah.
Can we form a radio station? You know what I mean? Like, what can we do?
Yeah.
And how can we like and especially thinking about Masisi Radio, how do we create a culture where how do we create a space that cultivates a culture of communal investment? Like it's not just us doing this and us making space, but it's like other people coming here and saying like, how do I help? How do I support? And it's like, it's not just a space for somebody to DM us and be like, hey, I want to be on on
Yeah.
the radio. It's like, hey, I want to come help you set up.
Exactly.
Hey, I want to help you move some chairs around. Hey, I want to help you clean.
Or I just
You
want
know?
to see how the fuck y'all are doing this because I've never seen this shit before.
Yeah.
Like,
I want to pay you.
I want to pay you. That would be amazing.
Or I just want to come and hang out. You know, like I love the people who come here and just like
Yeah.
hang out with us. Like it's
Yeah.
so beautiful.
Yeah.
Like where like 2 times a week you have like Franco and Javier coming in
Yeah.
and just like kicking it here for hours. Like I
Yeah.
never like that's great.
Yeah.
I love that.
More of that.
June and Rio coming here, you know, for 6 hours. We're spending
Yeah.
time with them and just like
Actually getting to know them.
yeah.
Because you're actually spending time.
Where else do people do that?
There's no third spaces.
Where else do people
Just
do that?
clubs.
Somebody tell me. You know what I mean? Like I really want to know because I want to go.
Yeah, no, literally, like, I genuinely would love, like, my biggest thing is to make this popular, so then the concept is popular.
Exactly.
Like, it's not about this being the hype, it's the, bitch, you should be collecting and getting with your friends and organizing. That's popular.
100%. And Max said this a couple weeks ago. He was talking about this idea of like what I mean, I think we really do have to define community, like just as a general term, because, you know, all skinfolk and kinfolk.
That,
And just because they're your neighbors doesn't mean they fuck with you.
that,
But like how do we create this distinction of community? He said it like this: the difference of community and proximity
yeah,
versus community and intimacy.
that,
People that I know, people who I value, who I respect, people who value and respect me, that's your community at the end of the day. Just because they live down the block doesn't mean that they might want to kill you, you know,
Mhm.
fuck, for all you know. It's like, is that your community?
no.
I don't know.
Well, not
I
the
don't
community
know.
you're looking for.
Maybe not the one I'm looking for. You know, but that's really the collective idea of what I
Yeah.
think Masisi Radio is. And I kind of wanted to have this conversation with you in terms of like, what does growth look like for something like this? You know, where we're like, it is something that we're so interested in, like the
Yeah.
localized version of this and like really supporting people who live here.
Yeah.
But it's like, is there a ceiling for that too? Is there a point where, you know, like how do people start to rethink their relationship to
Yeah.
this thing as it grows? I don't know if I'm making sense, but like,
No, I follow. I think for me, like, how I see it growing is like, it would be amazing to actually get in people's cars and make it as accessible as possible, because I think we're having conversations and playing
but then
music.
we can't cuss. I like to cuss on.
I like to cuss on here, but maybe not there. Maybe an app, but yeah, or just ways to make it more accessible. But really, also to be able to take this to communities that actually need to be broadcasted. Like, we need it, but there's people who need it worse than us that need to be heard. That sounds need to be heard. Like, I would love to go to Honduras and see what that looks like to do a broadcast there and find the musicians, the avatar versions of us in those places, and actually us really connect and be internationalists and let this be a driving force or vehicle to do internationalist movement work.
That's beautiful. I see that. I like that. It's just so weird, right? Because it's like in this world where the things that catch our attention are like names.
Exactly.
Or, you know, I learned a lot about the film industry this last year. Like, you know, what gets people money to make a movie is having somebody famous already attached.
Yeah.
You know, so it's like in the same kind of idea. It's like we might look at other radio stations or other people that are doing what we're doing, and it's like, oh, you get big when you have a celebrity come on your show.
I know, but that's why I'm Pressure Point.
A celebrity, right? But that's what I'm saying. Like, how as a community, as a culture, do we make local celebrities?
By doing things like this and making each other's icons.
Right.
If we put the hype around each other and build what that is from an authentic place, the world is going to have no choice but to listen, because at the end of the day, the world's eyes is on Miami. They're just waiting to see who the next icons actually are.
Do we want them seeing?
I think so, because we need people to actually accurately represent what the fuck is going on here, but don't close the door. Like, you need there's a level of, if we're talking about reinvestment, I do think there's a level of, it's always toward with this conversation of selling out or buying in. And I do think there's going to be a point where there's a fork, where it's either you're selling out or you're going to buy into the culture you love. Right. And we all have to do it. We all have to maybe sell out a tinge a bit, but it's with is there an actual direction and there's leadership behind it that can see past this goal? How are we actually going to use
use the resources that
use
we
a
now have.
You have to use your resources to actually maximize what your yield will be.
Right.
And so I think that
which is
answers.
something we could do better.
We can do better at that. We can be better at enterprising ourselves.
Yeah, which the kind of last point that I kind of wanted to talk about was like addressing the struggle of maintaining a space like this. Like, how are we actually going to keep this up in like the hyper commercialized space that is Miami?
Yeah.
Because like, shout out to Max for the garden, and like we do pay rent here for people who know. For people
we
who
pay
don't know,
rent here every month.
Rent every month, and we're trying to do programming that we can make some money and to be able to pay that rent, so it pays itself. But it's like, Max isn't on this building either.
At all.
There's a future, a very likely future at some point where he's like, I gotta go, you're on your own.
Exactly.
Or maybe he needs, more support that we're just not able to make. And so it's like, how do we, like what kind of thing are we working towards to make sure that this is something relatively sustainable?
I think ownership.
Mm-hmm.
I think that we need to be really having conversations around how do we actually really own the spaces that we are in? Yeah. Because not
just Masisi.
And not just Masisi, like just like a collective organizing, like what does a co-op actually look like? Yeah. And these are the things that can actually happen on this property. These are the type of, that's what I'm like, it's a bit of the sell out because you're going to have to learn the tools of capitalism and be really good at it. Right. But it's with the long game of, I'm learning these tools so I can also dismantle, or at least revolution may not come from me, and I don't need it to be. I need to be able to be a.
You have your role.
I have my role, and my role may be the next generation of folks are actually going to take it further. What I couldn't do, y'all have to take it, and what they can do further back.
That's a really great point, because we were also talking about this last week of like how the generations above us didn't do the best job of leaving the door open for us, for like people our age in this room.
They're gatekeepers.
Like, they really are low-key, high-key gatekeepers who have have used us in like these really transactional ways. Like there are a lot of them are our elders. And like the lack. I mean, not to say that a lot of them aren't also fucked up and they're figuring out their own shit, but it's like, how do we? Like it's so sad to see that there was a culture of people that like really did not do a great job of taking care of us, and did not do a great job of like making sure that there is like generous spaces and generous like resources for the future, to uphold and to keep pushing, the shit that they were trying to do, and maybe they didn't figure it out, and that's why they barely even got through the door.
And also, as we're seeing, like, that's a whole generation of survivors too.
100%.
They're a generation,
especially in Miami, where most of them are immigrants.
Of so many different things too. Like literally everything is happening here. So I can rationalize, but still it doesn't change the point that you have failed a generation. Yeah. And now a generation of kids are having to figure out how to create a new world without any of the tools.
Yeah. Or the few tools, rather, I don't want to say that they left behind, but like the few tools that they did give us were,
I don't know.
A lot of that shit were unlearning. First of all, those tools sometimes are kind of harmful.
Girls didn't even want to teach me how to fucking DJ. And that one thing has completely changed my life and has allowed me to do that in so many different kinds of ways.
That's right.
But like I said, there was nobody there they were really actually trying to gatekeep that one skill away from me.
That's a real.
So, I don't fuck with none of them, actually. I don't.
Yeah, and I think, obviously that just makes it so much more important that we do, and that and that we encourage the other people in our community to keep opening doors and being generous. Yeah. Like making sure like the people younger than us and the people our age are getting jobs, like get you some money, but and find and make spaces for them. Yeah. It's not just about being popular or whatever. It's like really just about helping each other.
And also kind of like to tie in the idea of living forever. Some shit is okay to be just of the time.
That's facts.
It is okay for it to just be
Not
of the
be
time.
timeless.
And that's what makes something legendary, is because it truly it did what it needed to do. The job was done. And it's up to you to now, the see that this like you can actually do whatever you say you want to do. You just have to follow through and collectivize and just study how the people before you were able to do it. But I don't know if Masisi or Masisi Radio, I would love it to live forever, but I'm not tied to it living forever either.
I mean, hopefully something else comes along.
That's I hope.
Or 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 things come along, and they're able to do this much better than we are.
It's DNA. I think we're still all of our ancestors' wildest dreams.
Yeah.
And that came in the form of a queer person. People, especially in Miami, didn't really. Miami's a very queer-phobic city. So to have a party a queer party at that, named the best party in fucking Miami.
Period.
To have a black queer DJ in Miami be named best DJ in Miami.
Period.
To now have the baddest fucking crew that has the baddest fucking radio in the city, and it be led by queer people, black people, brown people. Like, no, like it's not meant to last forever. It's meant to just push the needle.
Yeah.
So then the next thing is even better.
Yeah. It's planting seeds.
Planting seeds.
That's right. And we all got to water it. Everybody.
Everybody has to water it.
Yeah. We're pretty much at the end of our time, but if anybody who's here wants to, chime in on something or to say something, well. You want to say something?
Come on, Jasmine.
Hi.
Hey.
Hey, I'm Jazz, and she, they, and again, I think what you said about not wanting to be, I don't want to be the first, last, anything like that. Like, the point is to create a framework, which we do, what we're trying to do, so that people can reiterate it, specifically people with less privileges than we have. So me and you talk about that all the time, but I think it's just something to reiterate. Like, being the first, being the last is not the baddest. Like, that ain't it. So I love to hear that. Love y'all.
Love you.
Yes.
And yeah, it's just to be. That's like the antithesis of queerness to begin with. Like, we're just trying to exist in the world and not have anything be holding us to labels, markers, identities. Like, I just want to exist in the world and create what I can until I expire. And I think that is our answer to overconsumption, is to just fuck all of it, really maybe isolate yourself, but isolate yourself within your community and be surrounded and so entrenched in that experience that all the noise of the world can't even penetrate you, because you do kind of have a field. You've created a bubble in that way, but it's a bubble that is of diverse voices and experiences that still keeps you in the know of the world, but also is still protecting you the way a community should from the horrors of the world.
I love her.
Love you.
We got one? Oh, come on.
And play some music.
Great. Hello, my name is Javi. How y'all doing?
Hey.
I have a really important question to my friend Akia. So, I've seen Masisi grow literally from
The first day.
get-go. So I wanted to ask you, what has been your favorite thing while building all of this, like throughout the 5 years now?
Yeah? Well,
Yeah.
four.
4 going on 5.
2019
Yeah,
vibes.
2019. Yeah, so 5 years, like 5
Yeah.
years going on 6 now.
Yeah.
It's almost 2025.
Period.
So what has been your favorite thing throughout like all of these years, and like what has been like something that you've like really grasped and like learning from building Masisi from just starting in 229? Like, what has been like that like special moment that like really made you believe that, hey, this is something that is gonna be big. This is something that is really gonna be important to the community. This is something that's really gonna put a mark on Miami's nightlife, community, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah. Honestly, I feel like there's been so many different of those moments, but I would say like my favorite moment is the radio moment, to be honest, because it feels like this is like seeds that were sown from that first party.
That's right.
Things that we wanted to see now happening. We've been talked about this.
That's right.
I have notes on my iPhone of talking about Masisi Radio from years ago. Terrell can tell you the amount of times we slept late night talking about Masisi Radio. Helen, I get like everyone that's like from like the inception of things are like gagged because they're like, wow, this is actually happening, and to see how it actually looks. We were just a year ago in our own space about to get kicked out.
Getting kicked out.
Getting kicked out.
Yeah.
And talking about Masisi Radio and what it could have looked like then. And I'm so happy that it's happening now and with the people that are here now. And like, yeah.
And I remember that there was that beautiful transitional period where the parties started having the conversations.
Yo.
And I remember the HBO Max party, and there might have been something before that too, where it was like, oh, like in the middle of the club, now we're gonna have like a panel discussion. You know what I mean? And like that was always, I'm sure you knew it, but like I was really like, oh, like here is somebody who's really invested in people. You know, not artists, not musicians, not DJs, not whatever, but like real human beings and like the issues and the thoughts and the joy